Hi, everyone. Welcome to another Kira Chat. Kira is a career accelerator for the future workforce. It was started by Jen, founder and CEO, and myself because we wanted to create a space for first gen and early career talent to get real world insights, support, have honest conversations about work, school, and everything in between. Because what we notice is there are things that no one talks about enough or no one really prepares for. So today we're especially excited because we have a new member of the Kira team, Adrian Pina, who's going to be leading today's Kira chat. Adrian is a business student at Santa Clara University, is passionate about tech and storytelling, and is our new lead for our Kira chat program. Adrian, I'll hand it over to you. Welcome.
Thank you, Sylvia. I'm super excited to be the Curia lead for today's chat. Now let's welcome our today's guest, Stephanie Gutierrez. Stephanie Gutierrez is a second-year MBA student at Wharton School, where she's the co-president of Wharton Hispanic American MBA Association and is majoring in marketing and operations. We'll also be sharing Stephanie's LinkedIn on screen today so you can connect with her. Okay, cool. Stephanie, thank you so much for being here today. I'm super excited to talk to you about what they don't tell you about grad school. Okay, Stephanie,
Excited to be here. Looking forward to our chat.
perfect. Stephanie, there's so many things to talk about. I first want to get started on you had an amazing career within tech, within Google, Meta, eBay, and Lyft. And then you decided to pivot to start your MBA journey. When was the moment you thought, yeah, it's my time to do this? I asked this because I'm in my last year in college, and I'm really excited to think about maybe going to grad school myself. So I'm kind of curious on when you knew it was the right move for you.
Yeah, totally. So when did I know it was time for me to go back to school? Well, I graduated from undergrad actually in 2014. And when I graduated, I had no clue what I wanted to do. I somehow managed to stumble into tech through a summer internship at Google. And then at the end of my internship, they gave me a return offer. And since I didn't know what I wanted to do next, figured it would be a great way to learn and buy some time and pay off my student loans. And so that was a sales job, which was a great learning experience. I quickly learned that sales was not for me, but I gained a lot of really important people skills and soft skills that I've still used to this day with all of my roles. Um, and when I graduated from college, my goal was just to pay off my student debt as quickly as possible before even thinking about going to further school. And what I really focused the first 5 years on was pivoting into like different type of skills I wanted to build. So I realized I had studied journalism and I wanted to go back to some type of role that incorporated writing, and that's when I found content strategy. And so I worked to pivot into that, and really tying it back to the school thing, I was always trying to like learn new skills, and I knew I didn't want to rush into school until I could afford it and until I had actually paid off my last school. And it was 10 years actually since graduating out of school where I felt like I was reaching the limit on what I could learn by pivoting in roles. So I started in sales and then I pivoted into content strategy, which is basically like writing help content for products and instructional manuals. And then from there, I pivoted to actually helping build the products as a content designer, UX writer. And then it was really there where I started to feel like I was plateauing in my skill set. And that's when I started to think about, okay, what do I really want to do next? And that process lasted about 3 years. And it involved a lot of like doing research with talking to people, seeing what was out there, seeing what degree would make the most sense for career growth, but also the most sense financially. And it was finally in 2022 that I think I was like 30 years old. I had just turned 30 and I was like, it's either now or never. Like I knew that this was my moment. And so I just took the plunge and started the process. But it was really, to summarize, like when I felt like I had maxed out what I could do without school in my career, that I started thinking about the next step.
Wow, yeah. So I'm kind of curious. So you said you took about 3 years to really find something, and it sounds like you were preparing during those 3 years. How long do you think it takes, or what would you recommend for people thinking about going into grad school? How long do you think that they should start before?
Yeah, so it varies from person to person. Some people, from the moment they start undergrad, they know exactly that they want to go to grad school, like especially if you want to go into law and it's going to take a long time, or you want to go into medicine. Like there's certain yeah, certain fields where you know from the jump. For me, I always knew that law and medicine were not for me. So any masters I was going to do was like shorter and I had some more time. Um, and so sorry, could you repeat the question, Adrian? I
Yeah, the
lost my
question
train of
is
thought.
like the question was, how long do you think people should prepare before, I guess, applying
Oh
to
yeah.
business or the grad
Yeah,
school and stuff?
totally. So I think one thing to think about with grad school is it's a really big decision and it's almost like getting married. So you really want to make sure you like date the opportunity a lot before you commit and apply and like pay the money. And so for me, I so I had originally applied to a completely different graduate program in 2019. And I didn't really do that much prep for it. And once I got in and I went to the information session, I realized, oh, this is not going to help me move my career forward for the time investment and money. And like, these are not the peers who are going to challenge me. And so I actually ended up deciding not to go. And that was a big lesson of like, I needed to do more research. And so I was very cautious the second time around. And so I started thinking about going back to business school in 2022. And that first year was literally just doing research. Like I talked to like 10 different people about their experience in grad school, how much of a difference it made in their career. And then I started reverse engineering, like, okay, what do I need to do? And that's when I started a large portion of the prep is test taking. So like I study for the what they call the GMAT, which is it's like the SAT for business school, for like 2 years. And so that was a lot of prep. So I would say you want to start at least 1 year ahead of applying to grad school, but ideally like 2 to 3, because you really want to make sure you do your research, that you really think through like what happens after grad school. Is this going to help me achieve my desired goals? And is this the right move? So really, really treating it like any big commitment and putting the upfront research and time will help you.
I love what you just said, Stephanie. Some of the things that really stood out to me were questions you asked around, time investment, the value, will I be supported? Is it the right peer environment for me? Those are really good questions to be asking when you're thinking about the right fit. What other considerations or what are some of those big themes that you can share with us that people should consider? Like, what are those buckets?
Yeah. The buckets. So the first off, the most important is like why grad school? Like, what are you hoping to get out of it? Is it to get a better job? Are you trying to make more money? Are you looking for a new life experience? Are you trying to move to a new place and school is going to make it easier to move to that place and build a network? Are you just trying to expand the number of people you know who can help you get jobs in the future? And then for some people, it may just be like a status symbol. Like, I know I want these 3 letters at the end of my name. And so just really crisping up on what your goal is will help you determine like what is the right program. So I have a sister who's 10 years older and she's a mom and she works full time. And her goal was she just wanted the letters to check a box for her work to get the next promotion. And so for her, an online MBA at a local university in her hometown was the right answer. Whereas for me, I was looking more so for the experience. I knew I wanted to live in a new city, go to a brand name school. I wanted to build a network, not necessarily for my next job, but for the job 10 years down the line. And so because of that, I wanted to go to what they call an M7 school, so one of the top 7 schools. But it really goes back to like what you want out of it. The next bucket I would say is financial. Like this is ultimately a big buying decision. Like you wouldn't buy a house or a car willy-nilly. So definitely think about school the same. Like have you paid off your student loans already? Um, do you think you have a high chance of getting a scholarship? If not, are you prepared to take on more loans? And like how realistic do you think it is you can pay this off within a good time frame? Yeah, so those are like the two biggest buckets. And then of course, third being like, what is the main goal? Are you learning or earning? Do you want to
Mhm.
make more money after this? Are you trying to learn a new skill that you can only get through school? And just being really crisp on all those three things.
Stephanie, I had a question. Love how you framed this. What really stood out for me was like, wow, the discernment that went in through the peer process, right? You said this group appears you didn't connect with. How do you know that, right? Before you even join a school, how did you evaluate the peer group? And B, what was the positive experience that you found through your peer group that made you want to connect? Because I think we don't talk about it enough, right? I think we look at brand names, we look at cost,
Mm-hmm.
in the same way we look at places to work. But our day to day is so impacted by that small group of people
Mm-hmm.
who are surrounding us. How do you know before you get somewhere? And then what do you look for?
Yeah. So that's really interesting because when I was in high school, both of my parents didn't go to college. And so I honestly just picked schools based on brand name and where they ranked. And I didn't really think about what does this school specialize in and is that what I want to do and like what type of people are going to go there. But this time around with grad school, I really thought about, okay, what is Wharton good at and what is it not good at? What is UCLA good at? What are they not good at? And then I thought about like the industries they attracted. So for me personally, never want to be the smartest person in the room because that means I don't have that much to learn. And what I've come to realize over time is that I've learned the most and grown the most from my peers, not from a manager, not from a teacher. Like I do learn things from them, but the people that are going to challenge you and force you to grow are the people on your level playing field. It's kind of like a sport. You're not going to get better at a sport unless you have good competition. And you really have to view your peer group as like lifting you up. And so if you are the smartest person in a classroom, that means everyone's going to be learning from you. And so you just have to think about what are you paying for at the end of the day. Um, and so for Wharton, okay, let me,
You're back.
I'm back. Okay, sorry. Modern technology. So for Wharton, they are not the cutting edge when it comes to technology, which is the sector I came from and wanted to go into, but they're really good when it comes to quantitative things like finance, economics, any like math stuff. And that was an area I wanted to grow into and build expertise. And so I realized that going to a school like this, I was going to probably be one of the worst people at those things, but that also meant that I was going to grow the most from my peers, and that has 100% been the case. Um, so how going to your question, like how to evaluate that, you have to just go back to basics and talk to people who have graduated from the program. A good way to find those people is LinkedIn and just cold message people. Don't be dissuaded by people not responding. You just got to keep putting yourself out there um, and you'll eventually find someone to chat with. Uh, Accessing your own personal network. My mom has a friend whose son went to this school. Like, be shameless. You got to put yourself out there. Squeaky wheel gets the grease. And then once you are actually applying, like go to their weekends that they host, go to info sessions, see who's showing up, see what the student body is like. And then after you get in, when you're trying to decide between schools, like go to those weekends. And that's a great way to suss out what the peer group's going to be like. Because ultimately, with these schools, you can get all of this information online, especially with ChatGPT. What you're paying for is who you're taking the classes with. And I don't think enough people talk about that.
I like that a lot, Stephanie. I think I want to go back to a point that you said as well. You said that originally you got into school and then it just wasn't the right fit for you. And you decided to do more research and apply to a new school. And then you found it. I think that's a very valuable piece of information that I think a lot of people could take, especially because like if you don't like something the first time around and you think it's the right fit for you and you're investing a lot of money, you could always try again, right? And I think that's a very great piece of advice. You also mentioned like, do you have a high chance of getting a full scholarship or a full ride? How does someone assess if they have a chance of getting a full scholarship and what was your what opportunities did you have? What opportunities or avenues did you take to get the scholarships that you got?
Yeah. So for scholarships, when I was an undergrad, I just didn't know to apply to scholarships. For that one, I got lucky and I got financial aid. But this time around, because I had started my process so early, so I started thinking about grad school in 2022, and I didn't go to grad school until 2024. Um, oh, it's choppy again. I'm so sorry. Am I coming through?
We can hear you. It's just a little choppy.
Okay. Oh, okay, let me see if I can post some things on my end. Mhm. Let me close Chrome. Maybe that'll help. Okay. Hopefully that helps. I close my browser. Um, what were we talking about again, Adrian?
Yeah. The question that I had for you was, you mentioned that people should ask themselves if they have a high chance of getting a full scholarship. How does someone go
Yeah.
about understanding if they have a full scholarship? And what was your route? What avenues did you take to get the financial aid that you got this time?
Yes, yeah. Starting early really helps with this, and going through organizations that can help you prepare because they'll identify scholarships you can apply to. So, because I started early, I applied to a program called Management Leadership for Tomorrow, and they basically help vet students. And if you meet a certain test score and a certain academic background, then you can apply, and then they will connect you with programs and help you get to a point where you are eligible for that. So just like seeing what nonprofits and coaching services are available for the specific school you're applying to, and then like Google search, ChatGPT. Um, I just remember when you apply to those scholarships, it's a lot like applying to schools. Like you're going to need essays, you're going to have to write recommendation letters, but there's so many scholarships out there. Chances are you'll find something that you qualify for. That's really where test scores and good grades will go a long way. Like if you like, so in addition to all of that, like make sure you really put up the upfront effort to get a good test score. Cause like if you don't have that, then it's going to be hard to get any money for school.
And can you talk about a little bit about kind of the opportunities that you got through MOT? Like, did you get a full ride? Did you not? Are you paying? Stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. So for MLT, they have a partnership with a program called Consortium. And Consortium basically sponsors full ride scholarships to certain schools. And you can qualify if you believe in their mission, which I can't remember off the top of my head, but I applied for that program and I ended up getting 2 full rides to good schools, to UCLA and to University of Washington. I ultimately decided not to attend because I also ended up getting a scholarship to go to Morgan. But for that process, it was my coach identified it. They prepped me for how to apply through the portal. I wrote, I believe, like 3 essays for the scholarship program, and then got recommendation letters. Sylvia actually wrote one of mine, and then submitted it along with all my other applications. But it was a fairly straightforward process, and yeah, and then you kind of hear back once you hear back from other schools as well, and it's contingent with like your um, admission. So like if you get into a school, you'll also find out when you get in if you got the scholarship because they work with the consortium organization as well.
Stephanie, I like what you shared about working with MLT. They have incredible resources. I really enjoyed their career advancement program, so I'm one of the beneficiaries of their incredible programs. You also talked about earlier, separately, just about getting help, right? Just the preparation and resources you tapped into. And I know that that was a big part of your journey too. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that was like and what would you do differently?
Yeah. So I always like to compare and contrast with my high school experience to like now. So when I was in high school, I had no clue that some people had all these resources to apply to school. I thought we were all working from the same spot. We all basically only had our college counselor. And so what I did in high school when I didn't have like access to these resources was I really leveraged my community. And so like for that, like I had a teacher who taught economics and she was really good at writing and she was really succinct. And so like I just kind of got the courage and asked her to edit all of my essays. And that was really good because she gave me honest feedback and they got better every time. And so I just went to people in my hometown network and tried to leverage anything I could. And that also extended to like to prep me for interviews and things like that. When it came to this time around, I had more information and what the coach, so MLT, you get assigned a coach, and what the coach helps you with is basically the same thing. They will edit your essays, they will edit your resume, they will hold you accountable for studying, for test taking. They will share information on like deadlines for different schools. A great thing that MLT also does is they have 3 conferences every year where you actually get to hear from different schools. So we got to go to MIT, they hosted us and like hear from their program. And then you also get to like meet with just like basically any MBA program you can think of in the US. And it's just great exposure to understand like what options are out there and also what their application processes are looking like. Beyond MLT, I was fortunate I had saved up some money that I was also able to pay for a coach by the hour. And I think in total I spent like I want to say like $400 for her services. And she also specialized in MBA admissions and she edited all my essays to help like make sure it was highlighting what the schools were looking for. But I ended up finding her through an alumni of one of the MBA programs who was with Athena, who like had connected me with her. So again, just be curious, talk to people. Like, one conversation will lead to another, and that'll lead to another resource. Like you don't have to pay for these things. Chances are somebody knows someone who will do it for pro bono. But ultimately, like it always comes back to the people. Just like talk to people. That's going to be the best way to get access to this like information and understand like this world of grad school. I don't know if that answers your question, Sylvia.
Stephanie, that's so good. And what about just for our audience who may not know, what is MLT? What is that program? How were you introduced for it? And how sounds like it's helped you a lot.
Yes, yeah, it's a great program. I had never heard of it in undergrad, or even like high school. I think they might have a high school program as well. But I had a friend, and she had applied to it because she was much more connected with just like the world of scholarships and higher education nonprofits. And she had gone through the program. It's basically a nonprofit that focuses on building increased representation in like the C-suite and just like the business world in general. And so as Sylvia alluded to, like there is like a later career program where they coach you on how to get ahead in the corporate world. And then they also have early career programs. There's like an undergraduate program and one for people who are applying to grad school. And that's the one that I did. It's called MBA Prep. And it's historically been focused on the African American, Latino, and Native American communities, but I believe now it's open to anyone who believes in the mission. And you apply, and they have like certain test scores you have to meet and GPAs, and then they have like an essay and recommendation letters. And if you get in, you get assigned to a class or cohort that you then prep to apply to business school together. And honestly, that cohort is so immensely helpful because that's where people share resources. Like I learned about this whole world of like subreddits where people talk about business school and help prepare one another for interviews. And like these are all things that you learn from word of mouth from your peers. So having that cohort is so critical to the success of the experience. And then you also get assigned to a coach who gives you one-on-one support, like as I mentioned, for your essays and stuff. And then they have like conferences throughout the year where you get to engage with different schools and admissions folks and stuff. And so really the whole point of it is to set you up for success, to increase the likelihood that you will get into an MBA program. And the one thing that people don't like, I didn't know before this whole process is like, if you're not doing some type of nonprofit like this, like people literally pay $16,000 to $20,000 for private coaching to get them into a top business school. And like, if you don't do that, and if you don't fit the formula, it's really hard to get in. And so this nonprofit is really trying to democratize that process. So you don't have to pay 16K. You can pay like $900 and like get a similar support, and you don't have to be priced out of higher education. So it's a wonderful nonprofit. Highly recommend checking it out. And like, yeah, they have so many programs even beyond business school. Yeah, they're amazing.
Stephanie, I want to highlight how one time when you said that you all thought we all had the same access and when applying in high school to college. And I want to second that. I also thought that we all had the same access. I also thought our school counselor was the only person we could go to. And I love how you kind of learned from that, that when you were now applying to graduate school, you realize that you have the people around you, you could ask others. And the worst they could say is, oh, I don't know, I can't help you with that. And I really like that a lot. And I guess my question to you from that is like, how do you know who are the right people to ask and what to ask them, and how do you approach those people? Like, is it just really asking other people around you? Is it asking teachers for advice? Stuff like that.
Yeah, how do I know who to ask? Ooh. Um, I I would say I always start with my peers. My biggest mentors in my life have often been like my fellow classmates, my fellow coworkers. Like, things I keep getting spam calls. Is it coming through? Being curious and asking your peers, like noticing like if they're doing something. And you can't hear me?
We can now.
No. Okay. I'm so sorry, guys. So many technical difficulties. Um, yeah, your peers are going to be your biggest thing. So just like noticing who's doing really well at work, who's getting ahead, like what are they posting on LinkedIn? Uh, like what organizations are they involved with? And then even just like taking it a step back from grad school, like even within work, like who uh, who's winning the most projects, like who's getting praise from leadership. Instead of viewing them as competition, view them as someone to learn from. And like same thing with grad school, like if there's somebody who who's also applying, or if they've done it, like ask them how they did it. Like we don't need to there's no honor in taking the hard path. Like it's okay to ask for help, and like that's the biggest learning. Um and then the one thing somebody told me is like at the end of each of those conversations, ask, is there somebody else you recommend I chat with? Like who else should I talk with? Like you should always end a conversation with that. And that's how you get to know more people and like uncover like more key information to get to where you want to go.
Stephanie, I love what you just said. There's no honor in taking the hard path because first generation myself, I feel like everything had to be hard, right? And I love how you're really demystifying the process and just tapping into what's around you, who's around you, and then getting curious about what they tap into, what they talk about, all the things I picture, like that brainstorm bubble with all the connectors, right? Thank you for sharing that because I don't think we talk about that enough. We think grad schools, this big lofty goal, it's going to be really, really hard. It's going to be a lot of my time and energy. So now that you're in and you're looking back, knowing that, shouldn't have to be that hard or you don't have to kind of go down that path, what's something maybe you would do differently or what's a recommendation you have?
So like what's something I would do differently about just like my grad school journey?
Yeah, like if it doesn't have to be so hard, what comes to mind for you?
Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind, it has to go with it has to be about the testing. I thought because I was applying to a business school, I had to take the GMAT and that the GRE wouldn't look as good. And that is a huge myth. Like if you know that your math is not your strength, like take a GRE practice test. And if you do better on that, take that one because grad schools do not care. And if anything, doing the GRE you can use for other programs if you decide that business isn't for you. Like there is truly no special badge of honor of doing one over the other. Like do the one that's going to make you look best. And then I would say like the other thing too is like with like and this is true of work too, like with your essays and your resume, like it doesn't need to be perfect to show to someone. And in fact, showing someone where you start before your idea in your essay is like fully baked, like is better because then you can riff ideas off of them and brainstorm and get to an even better idea versus like when your essays are fully done, it's much harder to pivot at that point. So just don't be precious about your ideas. Share with people early and often and ask for feedback. And like something I'm working on is listen to the feedback and just like you don't need to respond yes or no. Like sit on it for a day and then in a day you can like think about it and be like, oh yeah, that is good feedback. I'm gonna consider that. So those are the two things that if I were to go back in time, I would like change. I would definitely take the GRE and I would not be precious about my essays and I would just start like sharing them with people early and often just to get as much feedback on them.
Mhm. Stephanie, now that you're in grad school, what are the biggest skills that you're currently developing that you find the most useful?
Ooh, I would have to say learning. Learning how to learn is the biggest skill. Like really, like you're never gonna 100% know how to do your job. And the industry, like by the time you learn it, the industry is going to change and you're going to have to learn again. So just like knowing how to like from zero learn a completely new concept and get better at it is a huge skill. And so before business school, I had never really used ChatGPT and I had a lot of assumptions about what it was like. And then once I got to school, we all got a free subscription of it. And I quickly learned from my peers, Adrian, back to your question of like, how were they using it? And then that gave me ideas of like how I could study with it. And one of the biggest ways that I've used it is as a tutor. And I never had access to tutors growing up, but I was like, wow, had I had this, like it would have unlocked so much because you can ask it questions like you would a tutor, and there's no judgment because it's not a human being. And especially for hard classes like accounting or finance or microeconomics, like it can really help break down complex formulas and concepts in a way I would have never thought to use it before. So just like knowing what questions to ask it has been really helpful. So learning what to learn. And the other one is like people skills. So much of the grad school experience, at least for me, has been building my network and like learning how to make small talk with people, learning how to problem solve. Most of the work you do in business school are group projects and like you have to learn how to work with people of different personalities. And I think especially in the AI world, like you can't replace human connection. And I'm realizing more and more that that is going to be so much more critical. Like, because if you think about it, like before this, my skill was always writing, but with AI, everyone's writing levels are like averaging out. And so really your differentiator is like how you speak and engage with others. And that's really where the leaders will come out of. And so just like learning how to build that skill and refine it and learning how to influence people has been really important.
Ooh, that's such a good one. We're doing some research on the exact same thing right now. Evolution of careers in AI. What is it that's going to really emerge? The influence is a really big aspect in your school setting right now. You've been in the school setting and the work setting, which is so valuable. What have you learned about influencing people? How do you influence from a group setting to a boardroom presentation?
I'm in a negotiations class right now. And so we've only had one class so far, but I can already tell that that is going to be really helpful with influencing. And in day one, they've already told us like a key lesson, which is like you have to understand what other people's interests are. Everybody on a certain level like cares about their needs and wants, and you have to understand like what is somebody's needs and wants, and like how can I reach a solution that can meet both their needs and wants as well as mine. And so it's all about active listening. Like you don't need to be the loudest person in the room to like be strategic to reach a certain outcome. So like being an active listener, asking questions, building relationships, that's really critical. And I think something else that I've been realizing more and more lately is like, and it's so cliche, but like you get more bees with honey than vinegar, but it's so true. Like people who come in and think that they can just bulldoze, like are often the least effective leaders and like the least effective at negotiation. So being more cooperative and strategic will get you a lot farther.
Thank you for sharing that. Gosh, these real world kind of application and lessons. I'm just thinking back to corporate world and how useful that is. You mentioned that, kind of going off the skills topic, you mentioned something earlier about I wanted to develop some skills or focus on some skills that I think grad school will help me with. So you just shared, how grad schools helped you and what those skills are. But when you were thinking about grad school, what felt like you were missing or what did you want to really focus on?
Yeah, so when I was in an undergrad, I had studied communication with an emphasis in journalism, and then I also studied like Spanish and Italian. And so I felt that I didn't have like the hard business acumen. Like I had learned a lot in the work setting, but when it came to job opportunities, I was having to convince people a lot more that I was capable. And I realized like, okay, I can either go down the path of like having to like convince people for the rest of my career that I can do math, I can be strategic, I can do operations, or I could go back to school now and get the stamp on my resume that will hopefully convince people that I am capable of those things. I'll granted still have to like try to convince them, but you know, at the end of the day, they can never take away my degree or the fact that I studied this. And so um yeah, so that's why I decided to go get my MBA is I wanted to be able to take on more media projects, things that were more because I did product development, so UX writing, and I really wanted to move more into the strategy versus like the doing of that whole process. And I thought that an MBA would teach me both like strategy, but also just understanding like the economics of product development. So like how do you price it? How do you understand what the market is? How do you understand like what the total opportunity is? And so far I can confidently say like I have learned that in my classes and I'm excited to keep learning that. Next quarter, I'm going to take strategy and competitive advantage, which I think will be really useful for my work as a product marketing manager. But yeah, I was really just trying to build that credibility to get the jobs, not even just like post grad school, but in 10 years that I wanted.
Stephanie, you're talking a little bit about the classes that you're taking. I guess the question that I have for you is, what does your day to day look like in graduate school? How is it different than undergrad? And yeah.
Sorry, I'm just going to put on do not disturb on my phone because I'm so worried I'm going to get another spam call. Let me turn this on. Okay. Now it's on, so hopefully I won't get any more spam calls. My typical day to day. So I typically either start my classes at 8:30 or 10:15. And the way it works in Philly, which is where I'm at, is all the students live on one side of the river, and we will all walk to school to get the schools on the other side of the river. And oftentimes you're running into your classmates, and you have like fun conversations, and then you get to school and you start class, and then you're in class from like 8:30 to 3:45 is the typical business school day. And you have breaks in between where you do your homework and you get to see your friends. And you take anywhere from like 3 to 4 classes a semester. And and you think your day would be done, but then you get home, you maybe eat a snack, and a huge aspect of business school are all the clubs you're a part of. So I last year I was on 4 boards. I was on the wine club board, I was on Wamba's board, I was on the first gen board, the marketing board, and all those clubs are where you get to do hands-on learning for business school. So like helping put on events, helping get speakers, helping to set up workshops, and it's a great way to build community. It does take up a lot of time. So it kind of feels like having a part-time job outside of school. And then you might have like a newsletter you need to send out or something like that after classes. And then business school is very social. There might be a school get together afterwards. Typically, every Thursday at Wharton, we have a school tradition called Pub, which is basically a school-wide happy hour. And it's also a great way to connect with your classmates at the end of the school week, hear how everyone's doing, get ready for the big party of the week or the big trip that's coming up. Um, yeah, so that's typically a normal business school day, and then you wake up the next morning and start all over again. But it's really social, really intellectually challenging, and just like a great experience. Like I feel much more tired at the end of my school days than I do my work days, but I also feel much more invigorated and excited to take on the next day.
I love that. I love how you're, I guess, building a community within your school. And I guess a question that I have is your community those clubs that you're in, or is it really your classmates, or is it both? Or do you see a lot of your classmates in those clubs? How is it?
It's both. It's all of it. So when you start business school, you get assigned to like a homeroom called a cohort, and that's like 75 to 80 people. And within that cohort, you have a small learning team of 6 people, and those really become like your main peers and classmates for your first year. Because a school like Wharton, there's like 800 people in one class, and so being able to have that small group cohort helps you build community because you take a lot of the same classes with them. So many of my friends are from that homeroom experience. And then outside of that, really the clubs, like the people you spend the most time with are the people you build community with. So I was on the board of wine club and I had a plan. This is going to sound so ridiculous. I had to plan a trip to Argentina for them. And so the woman that I collaborated with, that I planned the trip with, she and I had to spend so much time together figuring out like, okay, what's going to be the cost? What's going to be the itinerary? How do we market it? That we ended up becoming good friends. And then now not only is she my friend, but if I ever had an open work spot, she would be one of the first people I think of because I've already worked with her. I already know she's reliable and dependable, and that's also the benefit of like that club experience. But it's truly a choose your own adventure. Like anything in life, you get out of it what you put into it. I know people who have not invested in the clubs and like feel like they don't have as much community at Wharton. And it's really kind of like you have to put in the time and give back to others for others to give back to you to create those connections ultimately.
I think that's so great. I don't think people talk about that enough, right? Because depending on where you are with your journey, undergrad or grad, you may have a job, you may have different responsibilities, you may be focused on different things. And so, a big theme that comes up is my goodness, when we think about career success and opportunities, being involved, like choosing to find the spaces that interest you and be active is so important. And I love what you said, right? With your friend, Argentina planning, and you would be able to tap into her, she would be able to tap into you. That's a built-in network, and you know that you have that to lean on. So really great reminder that it's everywhere. It's wherever you take it, but how important it is to be mindful of that and take advantage of it.
And that's sort of the trifecta, right, Stephanie, is the likability, the responsibility and trust you can find in one person.
Mhm.
And I think sometimes we think that our career is just very linear, right? And we just continue to apply through LinkedIn jobs into what we get. But the most valuable, and I've been in those senior leader positions as a CMO where the part of the application that they don't advertise is they expect you to bring your own team, right? It's like,
Mm.
here's the expectation. When you get to these C-suites, we anticipate you're going to make some cuts, and we don't know that you're going to be the person that does it all. We don't expect that from a senior leader. We expect you to be the one to orchestrate. And whoever you need on your team to orchestrate this, you have our blessing to run with it, right? That has never been said out loud to me, but that's the expectation. And so as you're navigating these spaces, when you were talking about your friend, I think about that, right? That's what sort of the themes that you mentioned is she was accountable, right? She was responsible.
Mhm.
Likability is a big thing. Like likability matters to the, like, if you want to work every day with somebody and you're going to be working 8 to 12 hours a day with the same person, you really need to like them. They need to be responsible and accountable, and there has to be this level of trust. And if you can find that, then, that's how I've seen my peers have gone around in different groups. When their senior leader, when their manager gets a position, it's only a matter of months before they get recruited because they like to work together.
Yeah, totally, 100%. You're only as good as your team. Like, and your career is only going to be as good as your, like, network is such a nebulous term. It's only going to be as good as your
Mhm.
friend, like your friend groups, because your
Mhm.
friends are going to be the one who see a job opening, and they're going to be the one being sharing that before it goes public. Like, hey, my team is
Mhm.
hiring. That's the reality of how people, especially in this economy, are getting jobs. So like your
Mhm.
friend group is your network.
Yeah, it's so good because during college and during grad school and during those early years, it's, I would say, just as important to spend the time building those relationships and deepening those relationships. It's a challenge because it's not like on a checkbox somewhere, right? Nobody's forcing you to do this, and it's not technically part of your reviews, right? Collaboration,
Mhm.
sure, but like how deep those relationships get is really indicative of your future success that you may not see right away, right?
Yeah,
Very
yeah,
good. Thank you.
totally, 100%.
I love what you said about the job market, right? I'm having more and more conversations with individuals who are asking the big question of, oof, it's really tough right now. Maybe I should go to grad school. Maybe now is the time. What advice do you have for them as they're exploring these big questions about their next move?
Yeah. So with the job market, coming from the tech sector, I have both been laid off, and I have seen almost all my friends been laid off at least once. Like, that is the reality. So you have to plan for all outcomes. And for some people, grad school is a great alternative, or a great option in that time if that happens to you. I think I would really just stress, like, the make sure that the finances make sense, because it at least, what I'm realizing with recruiting is, depending on what industry you are trying to get into, like, you may not initially be earning what you think you should be, but that doesn't mean you won't, like, get there long term. And the advice that I got is, if you're going to go to grad school, it shouldn't be for your job right out of grad school. It should be like the job that you want 10 years after grad school. What is the job you want to have at 40 that you can only get with a, MBA, masters, etc. And for me, I was like, oh, I would like to have the option to be a director someday. But I know it's going to be a lot harder without grad school. And so, looking at my upcoming graduation, like, I'm probably not going to make tons of money, but I know that I'll have the option down the road. And what I'm really focused on is, this is my era of learning, not necessarily earning. I'm learning, I'm building my network to have that cushion for whatever the future economy holds. So that was a priority, and the experience of it. But I also, in those 3 years that I prepped, I really thought through the finances. I saved a lot. One thing I learned about is, like, you have your career goals, but you should also have your financial goals. Like, like, if grad school is a goal, how are you going to save for it? How are you going to make it happen? How are you going to fund it? Because student loans are no joke. And, like,
Hmm.
I think with AI, school doesn't always necessarily mean the opportunities it once did. So you really want to make sure that the
Hmm.
numbers make sense. Because, like, if money's your end goal, like, honestly, my husband works in construction. Go become an
Hmm.
electrician. They make great money
Hmm.
right now. So you have to be really crisp on what your goals are.
Hmm. Thanks for talking about money, Stephanie. We don't talk about it enough, right? And a lot of times, I know, like, in my family, first gen family, education is so valued, right? But early on, but they had no idea how to pay for it. And it's just like, no matter what, right? Whatever it takes. I think for my brother's college, they even paid on a credit card for the first semester. They just had no clue. And so we get this
Yeah.
mixed message in our families and in our culture sometimes of go to education, 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 but with not always an underlying blueprint for the financial roadmap. and what it
Yeah.
means, right? And so thank you for talking about it and opening up about scholarships in your path there, because yes, an MBA can give you freedom of choices,
Hmm.
but it can also be incredibly limiting if you walk out and you're $1,500 a month in debt on top of just regular cost of living. That is incredible right now, so the reality
Yeah.
of it, it takes some serious like self planning and knowing on what is this going to be worth for me directly, and what does that mean? What advice do you have
Yeah.
about the financial stuff? Like, how did you navigate it all, and who did you talk
Oh,
to figure it all out?
I am by no means a financial advisor, so I'm not qualified to give any advice. But I'll just say one thing too, because I don't want to discourage anyone. Like, if you want to go to school, you should 100% go to school, make it happen. But you shouldn't go to school because you don't know what else to do, because that's a really expensive decision to make. And for context, like most business schools are going to run you $200,000, and like that's just for tuition. Like with the whole experience on top of it, you're looking at 250, 300K. So you want to really make sure you're crisp on your goals. And like I'm 100% supportive of people going to school, but like just make sure you've really thought it through. And
Mm-hmm.
like the essay process of that, like they ask you why business school, so you have to think about it. So just like be honest with
Mm-hmm.
yourself, but like 100%, if education is what you want to do, like go for it. Like I think everyone deserves a right to education. um
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, to your point, I after graduating undergrad, I was so scared of debt that my main
Mm-hmm.
goal was pay off my loans. And then once I did that, I was like, okay, now I'm building my nest egg. But as a first gen person, I didn't know how to build my nest egg. And so I sought out resources from professionals. So at the time I was working at Google with Sylvia, and they offered a benefit of like a free financial advising session. And so I just started going to those sessions, and I started slowly learning like what are the terms, like what's like behind the magic curtain of like investing and things like that, because I had no clue. And then like those resources led to like more information and like unlocked more things. And so it was through that, just like figuring out what I had access to, like through those financial advisors, that I was able to like learn all about like what are your goals, and like money is a tool and money can help you achieve your goals, and viewing it that way, just like you would like with any other goals, like getting ready for a marathon or something like that. So just if you're seeing what if you have a job, seeing what your work offers in terms of those benefits. And then if not, there's there's tons of TikTok influencers in the space too, and podcasts. But again, always be wary, make sure they are a true financial advisor and they're accredited, because there's a lot of people. You just want to make sure you're trusting where the information comes from. But the good news about the internet is a lot of this information is democratized, and so it's and that'll help you get to where you need to go. But also apply to scholarships, because there's a lot of people who, if you check the boxes and you get through, you can get free money for school, which is great.
Thank you for that. I know we're getting close to wrapping up. I have one question and something you brought up before. When is it too late to apply? When is there a cutoff point? Is there an ideal time, age? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, yeah. So I graduated undergrad in 2014, and I just never felt clear or crisp on my goals to go back to school. And so I didn't want to rush into it, because I knew a lot of people who went to grad school right after college and still didn't know what they wanted to do after they finished their degrees and had more debt. And so I was like, I'm too risk averse. I want to really be sure. And so that journey ended up taking me 10 years. But it's because I tried to max out what I could learn for free through work. And it was when I turned 30 that I was like, okay, I'm ready. And I was surprised when I realized that for for some people, they have an idea of what the ideal age is for someone to go to grad school, and they would say it's somewhere between 25 to 30. There is no right age to go back to grad school. Like there are plenty of people in my program who are 30 plus, 40 plus, but the reality is like most of your peers will probably be in that 25 to 30 range, and you just have to not let that affect you. Um, so yeah, I would say there's no right or wrong time to apply to grad school. It's just kind of like knowing what the majority of your peers are going to look like. But as long as you don't let that get to you and you don't let it get in your head, you will find your people in grad school. There's people of all ages, but if you know what your goals are and what you want to achieve after you've gotten like 5 years of work experience, like there's no need to put it off. I just personally was not clear on my goals or what I wanted it to achieve until I was 10 years out of school. Because I truly never saw myself getting an MBA. When I graduated from undergrad, I thought it's not for me. This is not my path. This is for people who did finance or consulting. Like, and it was slowly through working that I built my confidence, and through my mentors at work who had gotten their MBAs, that I realized like I like what they do for work. I want to do that. Like maybe this is for me. And that evolution took 10 years. So yeah. So there's no right or wrong time to answer your question succinctly.
Thank you. That's great to hear.
Thank you, Stephanie. This has been a great conversation. I love the insight that you give. I love all the advice that you give. And I know we're coming up on time, but before we go, we have a few rapid questions for you. Don't overthink, just your first instinct. The first question is, you get a free ticket anywhere in the world with no strings attached. Where are you flying tomorrow?
Oh, I'd have to say Japan.
That's a good choice. Well, why do you say Japan?
Oh, I just like I love it so much. It's so completely unlike anything I've known before in the US, and like it's a such a unique culture, and I love Japanese food. I love sushi, I love ramen. And I just like love the architecture. Like it's just such a cool place that I'd love to get lost in.
Cool. Okay, next question is, getting your MBA is already a huge bucket list item. What is the next fun one you want to check off?
Oh, next fun bucket list item. I have all there's like this trail in Spain called, I think it's like the Camino de Santiago Compostela. I have always wanted to do that. It can take like anywhere like shortest 5 days, like 3 months. And like I love nature and being outside, and it just seems like it would be an amazing experience to hike and, reflect on life.
Wow. Okay, and the next question is, which TV or movie character do you secretly think you're most like?
Oh, there's a TV show from like the aughts called Brooklyn Nine-Nine. It's like a police comedy, and within that show there's a character called Amy Santiago, and I've always felt I'm most like her. And just to give you context, she's like, she's a super nerd, super organized, loves binders, and like I think just like a great character for representation. And like I've always, yeah, I just think she's so funny, and I identify with her a lot.
Okay. All right. The next question is, if you had to pick one meal that you could eat for the rest of your time in graduate school, what would it be?
Ooh, I love Vietnamese food, specifically pho. So I would love to eat pho for the rest of my time at school.
Okay, and then the last question is, what is the most surprising or funniest thing that's happened to you ever since you started graduate school?
Um, I think because I'm in my 30s, I didn't expect to make as many friends or be as social as I've been. But I kind of, when I started school, I was like, what's the worst that's going to happen? I just said yes to different experiences that I wouldn't normally otherwise. And because of that, like I've made so many friends, and like honestly, some really close friends that I see continuing after grad school. So that's been the most surprising, that like even at this point in my life, like I continue to evolve as a person and make new friends. That's been really surprising.
Yeah, it's always a good thing to remind yourself that what's the worst that can happen, and I think you could really push yourself to do many things. But thank you so much, Stephanie.
Totally.
It's been a great chat that I've had with you, and we're putting your LinkedIn on the screen so people can connect with you and
Okay.
continue the conversation after watching this video. And thank you again. We'll see you guys in the next Cure Chat.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Bye. Thank you so much. Thank
Bye.